The story of Donald Trump was always one of spectacle, a myth carefully crafted and fiercely protected, where the line between reality and performance blurred. He was presented as an invincible businessman, a larger-than-life figure who seemed to defy the odds at every turn. Trump was the master strategist, the man who bent the world to his will, orchestrating deals and rivalries like a grand game of chess. His name, emblazoned on skyscrapers and jets, became a symbol of audacious success, a brand that promised power, luxury, and the American dream itself. Rallies filled with adoring crowds captivated by his strongman persona propelled him to the highest office in the land. The spectacle grew, and so did the myth, as millions bought into the promise of a leader who would break the rules to get things done. The myth was simple. Trump was a winner, a builder, an outsider who could fix a broken system. He was the disruptor, the man who would shake up the establishment and restore greatness. But behind the gold-plated facade, a different story lurked. One built on secrets, intimidation, and a relentless drive to control the narrative at any cost. As years passed, cracks appeared. The carefully maintained image began to fracture, revealing glimpses of vulnerability and chaos beneath the surface. Courtrooms replaced boardrooms and subpoenas replaced applause. The stage shifted from the world of business and politics to the harsh glare of legal scrutiny. The transition from tycoon to defendant was slow, driven by mounting investigations and the testimony of those once silenced by loyalty or fear. Each new revelation chipped away at the legend. The tools that built his power, media manipulation, legal threats, fear, began to fail. The old playbook no longer worked as the spotlight grew harsher and the questions more pointed. Journalists and whistleblowers connected the dots, revealing a pattern stretching back to his earliest days in New York. The myth unraveled, replaced by a complex reality. This is the story of how an empire built on secrets and coercion could not withstand the light of public scrutiny. A story where the truth, once hidden in the shadows, finally demanded to be seen. Trump's rise in New York real estate was no fairy tale. It was a masterclass in navigating the city's underbelly. To build Trump Tower, he dealt with S&A Concrete, controlled by mafia bosses Salerno and Castellano. In Atlantic City, he worked with mob-linked unions to fast-track his casinos. He hired undocumented workers for demolition, bypassing unions and regulations. These weren't isolated incidents. They were his business model. Trump learned that intimidation and alliances with unsavory characters yielded results. His empire was built on a calculated dance with the criminal underworld, shaping the ruthless worldview he'd later bring to politics. No one shaped Trump's tactics more than Roy Cohn, the infamous lawyer and master of intimidation. Cohn taught Trump to never admit guilt, never apologize, and always attack accusers. This became Trump's playbook for decades. Cohn wasn't just a lawyer, he was a mentor in wielding the legal system as a weapon. He connected Trump to a world where power was maintained through fear and loyalty. Cohn's parties and connections were rumored to be used for gathering compromat, compromising information on the powerful. Trump absorbed these lessons: attack, deny, deflect, and project. He learned that repeated lies could become truth for many. Roy Cohn's tutelage gave Trump the psychological and strategic tools to build his empire and political movement. It was a foundation of aggression and disdain for the truth. As Trump's ambitions grew, his circle expanded to include figures like Jeffrey Epstein. Trump and Epstein moved in the same elite circles, their connection part of a wider network intertwining wealth, power, and illicit activities. Epstein's sex trafficking network, many believe, was an intelligence gathering and blackmail operation targeting the world's elite. Hidden cameras and orchestrated encounters created compromat, binding powerful figures through fear of exposure. Trump's presence in Epstein's network marked his entry into a global system where blackmail was as valuable as money. The unsealing of Epstein's flight logs revealed a staggering list of influential names including Trump. This network ensured its members were forever bound by secrets and mutual complicity. The Epstein web was the ultimate expression of a world where the powerful believed they could operate above the law. As Trump turned to politics, he found a new ally in Silicon Valley, Peter Thiel. Thiel, co-founder of Palantir, became a key backer in Trump's 2016 campaign, seeing him as a disruptive force. Palantir's surveillance technology, used by intelligence agencies and law enforcement, expanded rapidly under Trump. This alliance fused political power with technological control, embedding surveillance deep within the state. Where Cohn used gossip and Epstein used blackmail, Thiel offered digital blackmail, mass data collection for control. The Trump-Thiel partnership marked a shift. Old-school coercion met high-tech authoritarianism. Palantir's infrastructure, once in place, is nearly impossible to dismantle. The implications are profound: a permanent system of monitoring that threatens privacy and freedom. The rise of Trump, aided by Thiel, created a new form of control, blending intimidation with 21st-century surveillance. For decades, Trump seemed untouchable, shielded by lawyers and NDAs, but the fortress cracked as legal challenges and whistleblower leaks mounted. The Trump Organization was indicted for tax fraud, striking at his core identity. E. Jean Carroll's civil lawsuit resulted in a jury finding Trump liable for sexual abuse and defamation. A landmark moment. In Georgia, he faced RICO charges for efforts to overturn the 2020 election, echoing his mob-linked past. Leaks, including Epstein's files and insider testimony, amplified the pressure. Even the infamous Steele dossier saw legal validation when Trump's lawsuit was dismissed. The tactics of denial and deflection began to fail. The strongman who once seemed untouchable was now ensnared by the very systems he tried to subvert. The empire, built on secrecy and intimidation, was being systematically dismantled. Trump's power depended on unwavering loyalty from his inner circle. But as legal pressures mounted, that loyalty fractured. Former allies like Michael Cohen and Alan Weisselberg turned, providing testimony that implicated Trump directly. The illusion of an unbreakable inner circle shattered. The media, once manipulated by Trump, could no longer ignore the mounting evidence. The spectacle lost its power. The public saw through the performance. World leaders distanced themselves, and the US appeared unstable on the world stage. The myth of the master dealmaker was replaced by the reality of an isolated, erratic figure. Power built on intimidation and personality cults is inherently brittle. When faced with sustained assault from the legal system and former insiders, the facade crumbled. Trump's fall was more than personal. It was a reckoning for America. It forced the nation to confront uncomfortable truths about its own identity, ideals, and the fragility of its democratic institutions. For decades, Americans believed in the myth of exceptionalism, convinced that their system was immune to the corruption and chaos seen elsewhere. But the events that unfolded shattered that illusion, exposing deep cracks beneath the surface. The nation's image as a beacon of democracy and law was shattered. The world watched as the country struggled with internal strife, and Americans themselves began to question the very foundations of their society. The sense of unity that once defined the nation gave way to suspicion and division. Revelations of mob ties, blackmail networks, and weaponized state power exposed systemic decay. The machinery of government, once trusted to uphold justice, was revealed to be vulnerable to manipulation and abuse. The lines between business, crime, and intelligence had long been blurred. Deals were struck in the shadows, and the pursuit of profit often outweighed the public good. The boundaries that separated right from wrong became increasingly difficult to discern. The story of Trump revealed how power and wealth insulated individuals from accountability. Those at the top seemed untouchable, shielded by influence and resources, while ordinary citizens bore the consequences of their actions. This sparked a crisis of faith in American institutions and democracy itself. People took to the streets demanding answers and accountability, while others retreated into cynicism and distrust. The very idea of justice felt uncertain. The ease with which Trump rose by exploiting divisions and hidden networks raised fundamental questions. How could a nation so proud of its checks and balances be so easily manipulated? The answers were unsettling, revealing vulnerabilities that had long been ignored. Globally, trust in U.S. leadership plummeted. The decline was moral as well as political. Allies and adversaries alike saw a superpower in turmoil. Its moral authority diminished, its promises now met with skepticism. The myth of the shining city on a hill was replaced by a more troubling reality. The American dream, once a source of hope, now seemed distant and uncertain, clouded by doubt and disillusionment. The fall of Trump's empire became a symbol of American decline in a chaotic new era. As the nation grappled with its new reality, the question remained, could America rebuild its promise, or was the age of exceptionalism truly over? In the end, Trump's empire is a lesson. Power built on secrets is destined to collapse. The illusion of invincibility fades when the foundations are made of lies and hidden deals. What once seemed untouchable can crumble overnight, leaving only ruins and regret. The story is not just about one man, but about the dangers of unchecked ambition and the fragility of institutions when truth is sacrificed for personal gain. Shadows can provide cover for corruption and crime, but secrets become unbearable burdens. In the darkness, wrongdoing festers, and those who benefit from secrecy grow bolder. Yet, every secret kept is a weight carried, a risk that grows heavier with time. Eventually, the burden becomes too great, and the truth demands to be seen. The truth, no matter how deeply buried, fights its way to the surface. It may take years, even decades, but the light is relentless. Whistleblowers, investigators, and ordinary people seeking justice become the hands that dig, the voices that refuse to be silenced. The process is slow, but inevitable. True accountability means dismantling the structures that allowed impunity, not just punishing individuals. It requires a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths and to rebuild systems that failed. Only by addressing the root causes can we hope to prevent history from repeating itself. This requires transparency, whistleblower protections, and oversight of intelligence and corporate power. It means creating environments where truth-tellers are protected, not punished, and where those in power are held to account. Only then can trust begin to be restored. Without reform, the fall of one empire creates a vacuum for another, perhaps more dangerous, to rise. History is filled with cycles of power and collapse, each time with new faces but the same old shadows. The challenge is to break the cycle, to build something stronger and more just in the aftermath. The cost of these secrets has been immense, paid by victims and a society losing trust in its institutions. Every hidden truth leaves scars, not just on individuals, but on the collective spirit of a nation. The damage is deep, and the path to healing is long. Healing will be long and difficult, demanding a collective commitment to uncomfortable truths. It requires courage, empathy, and a willingness to face the past honestly. Only together can we move forward, learning from the mistakes that brought us here. Power derived from darkness cannot withstand the light. The more we shine a light on corruption and secrecy, the weaker their hold becomes. In the end, it is transparency and truth that endure. The fall of Trump's empire is a warning. The arc of justice is long, but it bends toward truth. It is a reminder that no one is above accountability, and that justice, though slow, is inevitable. The shadows may linger, but they will not win. In the end, it is the light of truth that prevails, guiding us toward a more honest and just future.